Hi, everybody. It's Friday, January 20th, 2017, Inauguration Day in the United States. Lots to think about, lots to look at. And look, I've been writing a lot of pieces lately which have more questions than answers, because the further we go into this particular experiment of humanity, the more it seems that we have to begin really thinking about big picture things and doing things really very differently. And I know that's more emotionally turbulent territory than intellectual when you get right down to it, because some of these are really big questions. So one of the things I wrote about this past week that caught me and really hit me right in the gut was having a bumblebee placed on the endangered species list by the Fish and Wildlife Service in the United States. A bumblebee. Now, if you can't tell as a species that wiping out something like a bumblebee is a really bad idea, then you have a big predicament on your hands. Look, we have to begin facing reality as it actually exists. There are real limits. We're having real impacts, and we should be having real discussions about how we want to manage those impacts. So here's another real-world example that I've been talking about lately. Last year, Oxfam ran a report that noted that 62 people in the world had as much wealth as the entire bottom half of the world combined. So 3.5 billion people, maybe 3.65 billion people against 62. And that's a sort of injustice that primates, humans in particular, don't deal well with. That's creating a lot of friction. Now, that was last year. 62 people had as much wealth as half the world. Oxfam reruns the report this year and discovers that now 8 people have as much wealth as half the world combined. How do you explain that? How do you go from 62 to 8? Well, you explain that by seeing all the trillions and trillions of dollars that the Federal Reserve and other central banks have pumped into the financial markets. And that has flowed to who? Well, it's flowed preferentially to those who already have financial wealth. It's a deeply unfair thing to do. Janet Yellen, I'm talking about you. Mario Draghi, you. Your successors, probably your forebears as well. Whatever we need to look at, this is a deeply unfair thing to do. So if you don't understand that context, then you're going to have a really difficult time understanding what's transpiring now geopolitically, why there are populist uprisings, why the root causes of why people are unhappy, even if they can't articulate it, even if they don't really know the reasons why, they don't have the context, they still are able to connect with the fact that something is wrong in the story. And so that's why at Peak Prosperity, we say that one of the most important things you can do for yourself is to get the essential context. Because if you don't have the context, you're going to be confused. And if you're confused, well, the shocks won't make sense. You'll probably blame the wrong people. You'll come up with wrong solutions, all of that. Look, we have to understand the context of our times. And these are not unconnected dots that I just put before you. What possibly could a disappearing bumblebee and 8 people owning as much as the rest of the world combined have in common? They have to do with the fact that our culture is now a culture that doesn't know how to respond to limits. This is too much wealth to accumulate into 8 hands. And this is just completely unacceptable that these bees are disappearing. This limit that we have to start to live into is, what are the physical limits of the world we live in? Now, that is not a story of less, because as you step into that story and you understand that we are living in an age of limits on the physical side, there are vast opportunities in this story to step into a life that has greater meaning, has greater fulfillment, greater purpose. We're really not following that path at this point in time. If we're going to have any hope at a positive future, we have to begin moving towards those lives of greater purpose, greater meaning, greater fulfillment. And I've done this in my own life. I'm absolutely in awe of how things have unfolded in my own life, and how enlivened I feel to be alive at this point in time with all its problems and predicaments. This is really an exciting time to be alive if you have the right context. So this is really a critical piece. And this is an area that we've been exploring pretty actively now at Peak Prosperity. I would invite you to either subscribe below or up in this corner here. You can click on that card, or to subscribe to this channel, but also come by Peak Prosperity. Check out what we're talking about, because we're asking the hard questions. They need to be asked. And it's really exciting time to be asking these questions and then figuring out what these mean in your own life. So with that, listen, 2017, it's going to be a turbulent year. There's just really no way around it at this point. And the year after that, probably turbulent as well. Get the context, get it from wherever you can. You need to understand what's happening, and you won't find that context in the mainstream media. They are avoiding it at all costs. Don't ask me why. Terrible business model for them, but they do it anyway. So we're providing some context, but you can find it elsewhere. Wherever you do, that's your goal for this year. Get the essential context you need so that you're not surprised by the shocks as they come. You're prepared for them, you're resilient, and you're stepping towards the life that you know you should be leading deep down. That's the kind of metaphysical alertness and awareness that arises at times like this. And that's perfectly normal, because things are increasingly upsetting, because our narrative, our cultural narrative, is not working. How do I know? Hey, when 8 people apparently have as much wealth as 3.6 billion people, there's no such condition as ever existed. In the Egyptian pharaohs never had an asymmetry of wealth that large. And we've created that. We've done it on purpose. It's not mysterious. The central banks did it. They did it in pursuit of things that I think were wrong. And here we are. So with that, I'll see you next week. And please come by. We're having some great conversations. I'd love to see you join us in those. And these are really big times. Love to have you be part of them. So with that, I'll sign off. See you next week. Bye.